Hi, hello, welcome back. Today we're going to do another top 10 Tuesday. So today we're going to be doing top 10 books with blank in the title, and we are going to go through 10 books with the word dragon in the title. This could be a mixture of books I've read and books I have on my TBR. Before we get into it, you will hear my children in the background. They're watching a film and the fan is on. Okay, so starting with some books with dragon in a title that I have read and recommend. Firstly, we have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. This is the first in the Millennium series. It started off as a trilogy and then it got continued on. I don't know if it's still coming out, but there was a recent one come out by another Swedish author who picked it up and kind of went with Stieg Larsson's notes that were left after his death and kind of ran with it. So the series is still ongoing as far as I'm aware. So this follows like two main characters, and it pretty much is these two main characters throughout every book. We have Lisbeth Salander, who is a hacker extraordinaire. She has come from a absolutely abhorrent background. She grew up in the system, and she is very autistic coded. I'm not 100% sure if she ever actually gets given the label of autistic, but the books I've read, she is autistic coded. As an adult, she is still under a like conservative type thing with a guardian, and unfortunately her guardian, who is a lovely man and always wanted the best for her, passes, and then she gets given a disgusting brute of a man who treats her as an idiot, feels that he is entitled to all of the money she earns, and is also sexually violent towards her. Big trigger warnings on this. And then we have Mikael Blomqvist, who is a investigative journalist. He is just coming back from a expose that kind of ruined his career, and he gets hired to do some private investigative work on a family's private island where 15 years or something prior, the granddaughter of the patriarch of the family went missing, and he calls Mikael in, pays him a lot of money to come and spend the summer there and find out, or rather the winter, I can't remember, and find out what happened to his granddaughter. And Lisbeth somehow finds her way like involved in it and ends up kind of assisting Mikael. The first book is very much quite closed in terms of storyline. It follows the storyline of trying to do this, like trying to find out what happened with this young girl. It's frames as a murder mystery, and then from there we kind of expand with Lisbeth and Mikael's kind of friendship, and we have kind of rolling aftermath of things that happened in the first book and some things that happened prior to the first book. I just find it so compelling. I love Lisbeth. I find her to be a really amazing character, and I hate what she's gone through. And I find that Stieg Larsson actually, obviously I've only read a translated version. My Swedish was never good enough to be able to read any of these books in the original, but he seems to have written her in a very compassionate way without making her a victim, considering what she's been through. And I do wonder if a storyline of her like hers would have come across as so sincere in the hands of another author. So yeah, I do really recommend this series. Definitely check out the content warnings. There is Swedish films for the first 3 books, and they are fantastic. There was a English language remake, like an American remake of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I actually think that was a really good film as well, and I said that as a big fan of the original trilogy and the book series. Sadly it didn't make enough for them to continue doing it. I would have liked to have seen the full trilogy, but yeah, anyway, that's beside the point. That is book 1. Next, in an absolute 360 in terms of pace, we have, oh, not 360 because it bring it back round, a 180 in terms of genre and pace. We have The Dragon's Bride by Katie Roberts. This is the first in the A Deal with a Demon series. This whole series is fantastic and well worth your time. This is a monster erotica series, and we have is he the devil? I cannot remember now. I think he's the devil. But it's in like the underworld, and there are many different kingdoms run by different species, and the devil, Lucifer, I can't remember if it is actually the devil. I always refer to him as the devil. Yeah, because his book is called A Deal with the Devil. Oh no, it's called A Deal with the Demon. Anywho, he is like head of all of the species, and he comes up with this plan in which he will bring human women over, and these women will agree to like make a deal with him for whatever they want, and in placement they will come over and live in their world for 7 years. No time will pass in our human world, and all they have to do is agree to marry. They get auctioned off, or kind of auctioned off, like marry the head of a kingdom. They don't get to choose. It cannot be abused, attacked, raped, anything like that. It's all in the clause. There's very, very specific contracts made to keep the humans safe. Yeah? But the hope is that they might perhaps fall in love with the person they marry or the creature they marry, and the hope is they might produce a child of half and half, because that is how magic or power, as how magic gets its power in their world, and the magic is waning since less humans come across. And so each book follows a different couple. The first one starts with, I think he's called Sal, the dragon, and Briar is, yes, Soul and Briar, and their kind of relationship. The whole series is fantastic, actually. Calling it, I feel bad calling it, like monster erotica, because it has so much more to it as well, and I don't want people to just dismiss it as something surface level. Each of the books dives into some really interesting trauma that one or both of the characters have, or like trauma surrounding relationship and trust, and it's just really well written. It's, yeah, fantastic series. Next is the Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is the first in the Memory, Sorrow and Fawn series. Don't know where, oh, here they are. Wait, no, they're here. Can you see them? Yeah, you can. Anyway, this is a series that started in the 80s, like it originally came out around then, late 80s, early 90s, and it's a epic fantasy series. I've read the first one, I started the second one, but I did put it on pause because I was reading The Faithful and the Fallen at the same time, and there was too many similarities. I was getting quite confused between the two. So now I finished this series, I can re-pick up the Tad Williams one. This follows a young kitchen boy who lives in a castle, and he is 14 at the beginning of this, and he gets taken under the tutelage of a doctor within the castle, and then he inadvertently like overhears things or sees things, and he gets accidentally pulled into like some political skirmishes regarding who will take over as king, as the king dies very early on in the book, and then he has two sons, both of which feel that they are rightfully next in line, and yeah, Simon kind of gets pulled into it, and then he goes like on his own little quest. It's the kind of basic storyline that is used a lot, like Faithless and the Fallen, etc., etc. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but it's used a lot. But how authors approach it is what makes it interesting, and I was really enjoying this. So I'm very excited to pick it back up and see what Tad Williams does with the story, like with that kind of storyline, and where he's going to go with it. The last book in the Broken Binding editions has been separated into two, so I'm quite looking forward to diving into that epic book. It's also on my Our Fantasy Bingo TBR, so I need to do it like within the next year as well. And then the final book that I have read is The Tea Dragon Society by Kate O'Neill. This is the first in the Tea Dragon Society graphic novel series. This is such a delightful graphic novel series. It follows multiple characters in this world where they have these little kind of pocket dragon pets, and they have little plants growing like on their heads and stuff, and they use them to make tea. It's just a really cute, like, inclusive world, and it's really a joy to read. The artwork is fantastic. I have picked up more by this author / illustrator since, because it is such a joy. So please pick up this series if you have the opportunity to. Okay, so on to the books that are on my TBR. We have Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. This is the first in the Dragon Scales duology. This came out a couple of years ago and it's been on my peripheral. I've been intrigued. I've not seen a lot of people read it, but the people that have read it have really enjoyed it. So this is an epic fantasy duology. Long ago, humans betrayed dragons, stealing their magic and banishing them to a dying world. Centuries later, their descendants worship dragons as gods, but the gods remember and they do not forget. I do love a duology, so I do need to pick that up. In a non-fantasy leaning way, we have Red Dragon, which is the first in the Hannibal Lecter series by Thomas Harris. I am really curious about this. It's a thriller, it's a crime thriller, and it, I guess, follows Hannibal Lecter or the cops trying to locate him and take him down. I don't know. Everything I know about Hannibal Lecter is from the TV show Hannibal, which was fabulous. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. No complaints. I've not read the I've not seen the films because I always intended on reading the books first. So I do need to read the books because I feel like I could like the films. I think the TV show kind of took the concept and then went off on their own thing, but I don't know if that's right. That's just my interpretation of it. Oh, and yeah, but I do wonder if the books managed to capture the very obvious queer undertones that the TV show did, because that was my favourite part. We have To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monica Black Goose. This is the first in the Peshivice? No. It's the first in the Nampeshi Visit series. Obviously, I would need to look that up if I started reading this. This is a indigenously authored. I don't know if it's a trilogy or a duology. Let me just double check. Okay, the second one comes out this year. And it follows a young, like, indigenous girl who bonds with a dragon hatchling, which is quite uncommon. So then she ends up going to a dragon school, but it's like colonizer run, and she is the only non-white pupil, I believe. Yeah, it's kind of like, that's the basic premise of it. And I think I have the potential of really enjoying it. Then we have A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This is the first in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. This is one that I know I'm gonna love, so I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. I think possibly I wanted to have it physically so that I could annotate it as I went along. So, c'est la vie. This is set in a alternate Victorian age in which dragons are a real thing. And we follow a young woman, Marie, who wants to research dragons, I believe, or is working on like a research document. It gives me Encyclopedia of Emily Wilde vibes, which is why I want to read it like that, but instead of fae dragons. And I love books featuring Victorian women going against the grain and pursuing knowledge because that's what they want. The next one is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is the first in the Burning series. I think it's going to be a quadrology. I think it's going to be 4 books. Only 2 have come out. The second one came out in like 2020. I think the third one's due to come out this year, but there's been quite a gap between it. When this first book came out in 2018, 2019, there was so much discussion of it on Booktube in particular. So many people were raving about it, which is why it was on my peripheral. There's been such a big gap. I don't know if maybe it was like traditionally published, no, indie published first, and then so that's why the first two came out quite close in succession. I don't know, but I've heard brilliant things about it. This follows the Amahi people who've been fighting a war for almost 200 years, and lucky ones are born gifted, and then one in every 2,000 women has the power to call down dragons, and one in every 100 men is able to magically transform himself into a bigger, faster, stronger killing machine. So that sounds really intriguing and quite unique, actually. So I do intend on getting to that, definitely. And then finally we have When We Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This is a historical queer fantasy. It's a feminist tale set in 1950s America where thousands of women have spontaneously transformed into dragons, exploding notions of a woman's place in the world and expanding minds about accepting others for who they really are. That just sounds amazing, and everyone, I've not seen a lot of people read it, but all the people I have seen read it have had really good things to say about it. So hence why it's on my TBR, and I do need to get to it because it came out a few years ago now, like 4 years or something. So there are the 10 books that are either recommendations or on my TBR that have dragon in the title. Let me know of any books with dragons in the title that you enjoy or that I should have on my TBR in the comments. Whilst you're down there, make sure to like and subscribe, do all the stuff that helps me out, and I'll see you soon for another video. Bye friends.